If you have loved ones that are up in age, keep an eye on them. If they lose power over the next couple days, that needs to be addressed quickly. So we've pre-positioned generators so that we can work with communities. We do have one report of death as a result of hypothermia from a critical needs patient that got outside last night. Unfortunately for that family, that's the exact situation that we're talking about. So we want to make sure that we're focused on that recovery and that quick efforts, so we're taking that very seriously. And finally, the last thing I want to mention to you, and it's been mentioned again, is give us space. We need that space to work. Those miles of roads don't clear themselves. We've got to get those trucks out there. We've got to get involved. As you might imagine, South Georgia's not accustomed to a lot of snow and ice, and so it's different there. The roads are different. There's a lot of dirt roads that have to be treated differently than just snow plows and brine and things of that nature. So we're going to have to focus on that and making sure we give a proper recovery, but GEMA's certainly here standing by with the governor's direction. Warming stations, you can go to our website, gema.georgia.gov. There's a list of warming stations and needs and things of that nature. Also following our social medias, we ask that you in the media please share that stuff. As you might imagine, this is, yes, it's a metro event, but your market's not necessarily covering everywhere that this is going to hit. So the more you share it, the more we can get the word out. So we appreciate the cooperation. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Director Stallings. We'll open it up for questions if anybody.
This is the real deal. This is not a drill. This is what was forecast as being almost the worst case scenario is coming. Is that an accurate assessment?
Well, that's one reason I wanted Will to go early in the press conference versus wrapping us up like last time, because I think this weather is so different from last time. We've got a much bigger area like we dealt with Hurricane Helene. You know, it's just a lot wider than most normal storms that we have. We also have the ability, the line, as Will talked about, when you think about from Columbus, Macon, Augusta, and then the metro line, which is really kind of Atlanta to Athens and Gainesville. There's a big difference in those two lines. You're talking 4 to 5 inches in middle Georgia and below, and then a couple of inches in metro Atlanta. But if those things shift just a little bit, it can create a lot of havoc. So us, like Commissioner McMurray was talking about, trying to prepare and trying to treat and then trying to respond to such a large area is going to be much different than we saw last week when we just had, quite honestly, some nice snowfall in metro Atlanta. People stayed home and enjoyed that in the morning before things got really cold. This is kind of the reverse of that. It's really cold now, so as soon as we get participation, like Will said, if that participation hits the ground, melts, and then refreezes, all of a sudden you're going to have a lot of chaos out there on the roadways. That's why, you know, people are riding around now but maybe thinking, you know, why are y'all warning us about this? But this could deteriorate very quickly, like it did in 2014. That's what we're trying to avoid. Number one, with messaging for people to adhere to our advice, and I thank them so much for doing that our last storm, but also us getting ahead of things like Russell was talking about. The brining that we've been doing since Sunday to help prepare will be helpful, give people time to get moved, get home, get situated. But if this thing hits like it looks like it's coming, and we do get, you know, 3 to 5 inches of snow in a Columbus, Macon, Augusta line, we're just going to have a big territory to be dealing with in rural parts of our state. And lastly, like was mentioned earlier, our local communities in that part of the state and south are just not prepared like people are in the metro Atlanta and up in the northern part of the state.
So you've got exponentially more equipment than you had in 2014, right? But that fuchsia area on the map behind you is huge. Are we going to be spread thin in spite of all that?
Well, I can just tell you this: we're going to give it everything we got with everything we got. Arch.
Governor Kemp, could you also talk about you mentioned about the populations that are most at risk and what they need to know? People who are watching now, should they stay in terms of, I think it was the 4 Ps. Could you walk through people again, just so that they know how to be prepared, please?
You want to talk about that?
So in preparation, thinking about the next couple days, you know, this is not a run on grocery stores. It's not a go buy all the bread, milk, and eggs that you can get your hands on event. This is going to be with us for 36, 48 hours. As I said in the last storm, most everything you've got in your house right now is fine. You'll be just fine. It's more about preparing yourself for the water freezing, your pets being outside, things of that nature. Also preparing your phones. Go ahead and charge those devices should you have a power outage. It's also important that you're thinking about a plan should you lose power. How are you going to warm? So go ahead and get blankets out. Using smart heater and generator safety. Don't run those generators in garages. Keep it away from windows. So basic understandings of how to get through the next few days. The temperatures are cold, but turning those faucets on and doing simple preparations are the key to getting through this event.
What time should people be off the road? We all remember 2014, folks being stuck on the roadways. So what time should they be off the road?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. Will, I don't know if you got noon. Yeah. You want to talk, just recap one more time, kind of what we're seeing in the weather and.
So the reason it's difficult is, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to take some time for that snow to reach the ground. But the concern is that once it does, it could start to accumulate very quickly and cause roads to not be passable in very short order. So I would say in the metro area and parts of middle Georgia, you probably want to be where you're going to be for a couple days by noon today, early afternoon at the latest, because we'll start to see things rapidly deteriorate this afternoon.
Will the north edge, if you can estimate, the counties closest to Metro Atlanta, what do you think the north edge will be for that 3 to 5 inches you mentioned?
So for the 3 to 5 inches, the winter storm warning area, so probably south of Metro, but you could get pretty serious impacts from just an inch or two, which is the winter weather advisory area. Right now, models are indicating maybe the I-85 corridor on the north and east side of town might be where that delineation occurs, but it's really difficult to forecast, and there's going to be a gradient. There will be a point where one county gets nothing and the next county gets an inch or two. It's very difficult because you're talking about maybe tens of miles between nothing and a lot.
You have something.
You talked about the potential for a power outage. Governor, has your office had any conversations with utility companies about a contingency and kind of best, go after that if it happens?
Well, that's why we do the early state of emergency. Director Stallings mentioned about that. The operations center's up. We got our team here. We're already in communications with our partners, Georgia Power, EMCs, our city electrics, local emergency management agencies, rural water. I mean, we're treating this like, any other storm we got. We're in touch with all our partners, all our private sector partners, all our resources, and, they're ready to deploy. I mean, thankfully, we have a battle-tested team, not only here, but also our utility partners are as well, and we certainly saw that in Hurricane Helene.
What impacts
Could we see at the Atlanta airport, sir? I don't know who's more qualified to answer this, but we're already seeing up to 90-minute delays, a lot of folks leaving for the college football playoff. Can anyone talk about that?
Well, I'm just glad this storm's coming midday, not this morning, to help get our visitors out of town. Great celebration last night for the college football playoffs, being back here for the second time in the CFP area. I haven't really heard a whole lot of updates from the airport. I mean, they're obviously used to dealing with winter weather as well. There's been a lot of logistical challenges with everything that was going on in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Certainly we're feeling that some here, but also from the playoffs. But right now I think everything's operational at the airport. I know they're doing just like we are. They're preparing, and they'll be ready, and then we'll just keep you guys updated when we're getting reports from them.
Mr. Langston, what about first responders? When people are worried about making sure they can get an ambulance or someone out to help them, what is your message to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that's another great reason to stay off the roads today, because if you get in an accident, you might be hindering first responders from getting to where they need to go. So again, my message would be to try and get to where you're going to be for the next day or two by early this afternoon, and give the Department of Transportation the room that they need to do their work on the roads, but also stay off so that first responders can get where they need to be.
And I think there's a really good point there that we've talked about a lot is by people staying off the roads. If let's say we got tractor trailers that are having to move fuel or whatever else coming through the state, and they have an accident or experience something like we saw up on 285 in the last storm. We had very little of those last storm. In 2014, we had them everywhere. And so you can't get to people to get them moved so you can keep brining, so you can keep plowing, so you can keep putting salt out. So the less people we got on the roads, if we do have something like that happen, it allows us to get to those people clear that roadway, which is imperative if we're trying to get fire trucks or ambulances and our first responders to people that need them. So again, you know, I know it's aggravating dealing with these things, but if people can just do what they need to do in the next hour or so, limit their travel, as Director Stallings said, give people plenty of space between you, so if you get caught out there and things deteriorate quickly, you can respond and react. And let's just, you know, hunker down for a day or so and get some sunshine and warmer weather back in here.